other words using pepper spray, to spray the inside of a spit hood, which is normally placed on inmates when they are spitting or biting at the jail officers. No allegations have been made by anyone that Tevin spit or bit at anyone. Nonetheless, he was placed in restraints where he couldn't move his wrists, his arms, his legs, his shoulders in any way. Before being placed in that chair, he was stripped naked, demeaned, and then required to sit there while a particular guard sprayed the inside of a spit hood with pepper spray. Tevin, having asthma, mind you, had to sit there and endure this hood and helmet being placed on him for over an hour. There are some unanswered questions as to whether or not he was even checked on, but what we know for sure is that he received no medical treatment and did not have a shower for more than 3 days. Behind me, I have the legal team from Faith-Ingle-Smith, who are Tevin Bald's civil rights attorneys, and they are, of course, available to answer questions. You may also have questions for these members of the NAACP at this time.
What's Tevin's status now? Was he OR?
Yes. Dennis Bird and I went directly to Judge Roger Davis and explained the situation. Without any hesitation at all, Judge Davis released Tevin from jail immediately. His mother came to get him, and he is now safe at home with his parents.
We were called upon by Tevin Bald and his family due to the fact that Harrison County does not have a branch of the NAACP. There is a long lineage of ancient African American history here in Corydon that links us all together in southern Indiana. We are conducting our own investigation of this very humiliating experience that Tevin had to endure here in Harrison County.
50 feet from the state's first Supreme Court and General Assembly. And we're talking about inhumane treatment by law enforcement, jail officers, stripping someone, locking them down, and torturing them with pepper spray, with having an asthmatic condition, and then not providing treatment. We're talking about that in Indiana, in Indiana's first capital. It's the travesty. 18-year-old boy who probably at the wrong place at the wrong time, you have to determine, was subjected to this in Harrison County. This could be anyone's child. Anyone's child. We don't know how many times this is. This is something that should have never happened. This is akin to Abu Ghraib. People who went to jail for that, discharged from the military. This is such a heinous act and a violation of human rights that we need to make sure that this is dealt with severely, and a message is sent that this type of behavior is not tolerated in any way, shape, or form.
What we have done is we have filed a tort claim notice with the County Attorney John Colin. We've also notified Sheriff Dietrich and the Harrison County Sheriff's Department, as well as Corporal Adams, and also I believe it was Officer Timberlake who was involved.
The scary thing about this is that Corporal Adams' higher-ups fired him, and a few days later, Sheriff Dietrich apparently did his own investigation and rehired Corporal Adams back after this awful, awful travesty that occurred in that jail.
I think that's a point of clarity that some of us might be confused on. When this corporal was fired, who actually fired him?
His superiors within the jail.
Okay.
There's a lieutenant and a captain who made the decision that, it's my understanding, there had been other write-ups before. We don't know what they are just yet, but there had been other write-ups combined with this. There were some other officers who witnessed what happened, and they turned it in. And I think that all of this probably would have been shoved under the rug had the sheriff not rehired Adams, and that's when it all came to light, because this particular lieutenant contacted the county attorney for advice and said, Adams is coming back to work, what do I do? so. That's why we know about it.
This is going to sound fairly obvious, but I do think it needs to be asked. Is there any protocol that you're aware of that would, this is so obvious I'm almost embarrassed to ask, but is there any protocol that you're aware of that would warrant any type of treatment similar to what your client got?
Oh, no. And in fact, Harrison County officers and jailers are both armed, they're all armed with tasers, and that seems to be the preferred method for any type, if you have to subdue an inmate for something, or a person who an officer has pulled over and is in the process of arresting. I have been doing this for many years now, and I've never seen anything like this. I can't imagine that in any state, anywhere, that this kind of treatment is protocol or is in any way fair or the right thing to do, regardless of color or behavior of the inmate.
Do you know what led to it? What was happening prior to?
I do know. It's my understanding that Mr. Bald was being denied the right to clean his cell, which is something that all inmates have to do. They have to keep up their jail cell in a clean manner. He had a mop bucket that was full of dirty water. He was requesting chemicals and clean water to clean his cell and was denied over and over, and that led to an exchange of words between he and some of the jailers.
Was there an argument leading up to this? Was there any kind of verbal or physical argument?
There was certainly a verbal argument. Mr. Bald was very angry that he was being denied the ability to clean his cell after all of the fellow white inmates were able to clean their cells. I can tell you that had this lieutenant not contacted John Colon, none of us would have known about this at all, because Tevin was simply too scared. When I went down to the jail, to the attorney and client visitation room to talk with Tevin, that was the very first time that any of this came to light for me, and I literally had to pull it out of him. He was so scared and so unwilling to talk because he kept looking up at there are speakers in the attorney-client visitation room, and you know, although no one is to listen, we don't know if they are. And he kept looking at that and, you know, kind of indicating he was scared to say anything. He was so scared because he didn't know yet that he was about to get out of jail. And so he was hesitant to tell me anything. And eventually he did. He told me everything. But it was very painful for him, and he is still suffering, aside from the emotional effects, but physical effects from his lack of treatment after this incident occurred.
Use of the N-word was prevalent throughout Mr. Bald's 2-month stay, which precipitates the link to the hate crimes, if that is the case. Also, the pepper spray was used while he was already secure. It wasn't used to subdue him. He wasn't attacking someone. He was already locked down in the safe chair in a padded room. Then the pepper spray was used. Also, with respect to the sheriff rehiring the officer back, his comment in a statement in the report was, well, he's just stupid, he was making a mistake. That is no longer an excuse for violations of human rights in this country. People are doing things and they know what they're doing. Stupid or not, they need to be dealt with. And they should not be in a position of public trust, especially when they have the care of others as their duty. So saying someone is stupid and they made a mistake is no longer acceptable. And rehiring this person back is the death knell in this situation.